Hello, everyone. Caren Glasser here, and welcome to the Super Boomer Lifestyle Show, brought to you by the superboomerlifestyle.com, your one-stop shop for brands we know that you will love. Today, we welcome Mischelle ONeal to the show. Today's topic is how to create balance and control that you crave. Is it even possible? We're going to find out with Mischelle today. If you're here live, we're delighted that you're live. Make a comment down below. Say, I'm here live. If you're here on replay, we love you too. Make sure you make a comment down below that you're here on replay. And do us a favor, share out this show. Share, 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 share. We will love you forever. Today, the Super Boomer Pic of the week is one of my favorite things, and that is the Echo Dot. The reason why I like the Echo Dot, and I'm going to turn around right now, is that I love to have music playing in my office all the time. I have classical music playing. Some people call it muzak, elevator music. But I love having music playing. So I have one of these in almost every single one of my rooms. My guest was telling me so does she, except for one room. Maybe we'll ask her where that one room is that she doesn't have it. And I encourage you guys to go check this out. You can find this on the superboomerlifestyle.com. You can see that scrolling down the bottom. All right, I'm going to bring this down here, and I would like to introduce our special guest today. Mischelle ONeal served our country and she is a retired United States Air Force veteran. She continued her career as a civil servant working for various federal government agencies. She was inspired by a desire to help women overcome personal and professional challenges, and she created something called the Mastering Your Monday to assist women in developing a more balanced, there's that word again, productive lifestyle and how to create a fresh start one Monday at a time. So without further ado, I bring in Mischelle ONeal. Come on in, Mischelle. How are you today?
Hello, hello. How are you, Caren? I am so excited to be here today.
Well, not as excited as I am. I am so excited about this topic. We already started talking about it offline. It's all about the topic of balance. But before we jump into that, I like to start the show with the question, how do you describe a super boomer? If you're on the show live right now or replay, tell us how you describe a super boomer right in the comments. I describe super boomers that they're not defined by their age. They're defined by how they show up, basically fearless with a just watch me attitude. That's how I describe a super boomer. How do you describe a super boomer, Mischelle?
I say she's a woman who does not let age, size, her station in life define who she is and what she can do. But her power and her secret weapon is really her mind. That's where all the power is. She's a woman of infinite wisdom, experience, and love. And she understands excellence and service.
Oh my gosh, that's an awesome definition. I want to be that. I'm going to be that super boomer. So if you're just tuning in right now, we're talking to Mischelle ONeal, and we're talking about the topic of balance and getting that balance and that control that we crave. So let's just jump in. Balance. Does it even exist? What does that mean? How do you define balance?
So I have a question for you. When you think about Muhammad Ali or some other boxer, Sugar Ray Leonard or whoever, you think about balance. Is it that they stay even kill, or what are they really doing? Or even if you talk about karate or some other kind of sport, they're all involved balance, correct?
That's true. That's true.
But it's a dance. That's what balance is. It's a dance. It's be able to keep your focus, but also keeping that rhythm going. So it's that flow and that rhythm. And that's what balance is in our life, is keeping that flow, that ebb and that tide of rhythm go in our life.
And so what you're saying is that when we can find that balance, then we can, it helps us have more control that I know I crave because I'm a control freak. But how does that work? I mean, so how does that work exactly?
So control is really focusing on the things that matter to you most. Mm-hmm. And a lot of time we get so inundated with all the things that really don't matter because they're pulling at our time. The things at work, their deadlines, and at home, there's people, the kids are pulling at you. I need you for this. I need you to take me here and there. Right. So it's being able to prioritize those things and finding out what exactly matters. I always say there are 50 shades of no.
I love that. 50 Shades of No. That's a great quote. We're going to have to put that down. 50 Shades of No. That's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay. So you help women champion for themselves, but let's talk a little bit about your background. You were in the service, you work for the government. That is, first of all, I'm in awe of you. You know, I think a lot of us, when we think of the service and we think of things like that, we think of men, right? They go and they do that. And I'm in awe of you because that's clearly not a true statement. There are a lot of women that are in the service. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how it might have molded who you are today.
Well, one of the hardest things about being in the military, and I was in a totally male-dominated field when I first came in. I was actually an electrician. And when you come into a field like that, instead of acting or being the person that you are and really understanding your identity, you try so hard to fit in, so you become who they expect you to be, or you have to prove yourself, especially as a woman going into a field like that. Right. You know, it's like, I'm just as strong, I'm just as good as you are. But it's funny because they would capitalize on my size because I could go into the small spaces and things and manipulate the small things that they couldn't do. Right. So
yeah,
exactly. So that's what happens when you're in that type of world. So it was because of my mother that I learned to really identify who I was, and I understood that. And it was only when I was ready to grasp that I began to cumulate. Oh, can't talk today. Into who I am. So one of the things is really understanding your identity, and that's what I work with women on is defining who you are, with no questions. And one of the things that I'm really big on is you have to know your non-negotiables. Simple as that. When you understand your non-negotiables, you understand where you end and someone else begins. And you take responsibility and you take ownership of your life. That's where the power comes in.
Do you think it's because of your history of your past that you decided you really wanted to help women become champions to themselves and to others? Exactly.
A lot of times in the workforce and even in marriages in life, women feel that there are no options, that there's no way out. My mother used to tell me on the sideline, I don't care what you do, but always keep a little something on the side. And I'm like, Mom, I don't need to do that. And I don't, but I also always have a plan where I know that if this happened, then what? And so you always think through what's the worst that can happen and what's your plan for that. And if the best happened, can you handle that? Because a lot of times, even though we can deal with the worst, a lot of times we don't know how to deal with the good because we don't expect it.
That's true. That is true. So tell us a little bit about Mastering for Monday.
Okay.
Mastering your Monday. Tell us a little bit about that. What does that mean? And
so it's a little tongue in cheek. So Mastering your Monday. The reason I picked that is because a lot of people have what they call the Monday blues, or they feel like Monday is the worst day. But for others, Monday is the beginning, the fresh start. So for me, it's not necessarily the word Monday or the day Monday. It's about the fresh start that we pick up and start again. That's what Mastering your Monday is. And one of the things I found that if you focus on just doing the things to get you there, if you have a plan and you focus on the actions to get you there, all of a sudden the next week you wake up and you go, oh my gosh, I've gotten so far.
So are you a proponent of small steps to get to the bigger?
How do you eat the elephant? One Monday at a time.
One bite at a time.
I say one Monday at a time.
One Monday at a time. So you teach this, and I know you also have a book that's out, and I want to put this up here right now. It's called Mastering Your Monday. It's available on your website, and we're going to
Amazon.
And Amazon. We're going to send people over there after the show so that they can go take a look at the book, Mastering Your Monday. Tell us what they're going to get in this book.
What this book is I took a lot of the lessons that I learned growing up. Again, my mother is a big factor in it. If I can share a story.
Sure.
When I was little, 9 years old, I was getting ready. These three girls wanted to beat me up. And so I went home. I was crying. My mother's standing in the screen door. And right beside her, she has her hands on the hip, and she looks at me and she says, "Girl, what is your problem?" And I'm like, "The girls want to beat me up." And she says, "If you don't get your tail out there, you grab yourself a stick, a brick, I don't care what you get, but you get your tail out there and fight." And I looked at her and I said, it can be mom or it can be them three girls. Well, you know where I went. I went out there where those three girls were, because I didn't want to face what I had to deal with my mom. And then afterwards, I came back crying, and she says, "What are you crying for?" And I said, "I'm so happy." And she says, "Girl," but the thing is, I was happy because I had the courage to go back out there and I fought. It wasn't whether I won or I lost, but it's that I got back out there and I fought. But the thing go ahead.
No, and I think we learned this lesson is get back up on the horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't let it define you.
Exactly. And the thing she taught me too, though, which was key, is you grab that stick or brick. I don't care what you do. So it's find the resources, the available resources to you at that time, and use them. And that is so key. And that's what's in the book. We talk about the fact that we have patterns in our life. That's in the first chapter. We have good patterns and bad patterns. So you learn from the bad patterns, but you also look at what you're going to fall back on, because those patterns that you create are what you're going to fall back on in the instance of something tragic or something that happens. It's that stop, drop, and roll. You learn that pattern so much in school that if a fire happens, what are you going to do?
Stop. You're going to do it immediately because that's what you've been trained. That it's ingrained, right? It's ingrained.
Exactly. So that's one of the things we talk about it. But we talk about the consequences. A lot of times people don't think through the consequences of their actions before they take those actions. So a lot of times just stop, take a breath and say, what is the worst that can happen? What is the best? Our consequences are like tentacles of an octopus. It doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone it touches. Everyone. You know, it's interesting because that is actually what I ask myself whenever I find myself in a situation. What is the worst thing that could happen? And can I live with it? So I make decisions based on that. Do I go take this risk? Do I go do this? And I always ask myself, what's the worst that could happen at this point? What's the worst case scenario? And if I really can deal with it, then I'm going to go do it. If I can't, that's me saying, okay, that's where you draw the line. Do you do similar stuff? Exactly. I just have to think through everything I do, because if I don't, I won't move forward. Right. I could live in fear, or that removes the fear when you think of both instances, the worst and the best. That removes all fear because you know what can happen, and then you can move forward in action. And that's what we need to do, is be able to take that action. One of the things I realize is we as humans are the only creatures who thought dictates our stress. No other creature does that happen. And we let that stress actually react in our bodies. If you've ever woken up in the middle of the night and you have a leg cramp or restless leg, that's stress coming out, because what happens is stress releases those the pH balanced acids, and that eats up the minerals in your body. So if we have this control and this balance, we can manage our stress. There's good stress and bad stress, but
Yeah.
we want to manage it.
Well, I call it the itty bitty shitty committee that's in my head, you know, and it talks to me. And, you know, before the show, we were talking about the fact that I get up, you know, 3:30, 3 in the morning because it's talking to me and I have to get out. So this is very interesting to me. What is the biggest question that you get asked when you're in a group of women and they find out what you do? What's that question that people ask you?
How to create healthy boundaries. I think that's one of the hardest things for us to do as women. And that's one of my key, next to identity, that is one of my key things that I do is talk about healthy boundaries. Because if we don't have those, we are the gatekeepers of our heart, of our minds, of our lives. And so we have to have those boundaries in place. And if we don't, that goes back to the 50 Shades of No, then we allow people to have control of our lives. We allow them to manipulate us. And we're so much people pleasers that we allow this.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I think that's really important information. I think that's going to be my super boomer moment of the week. So, you know, for those of you who are wondering, how do we get in touch with Mischelle? Well, first of all, you can go check her out on Instagram at Mischelle ONeal. I love the way you spell your name, by the way, guys. You notice it's Mischelle O'Neal. If you want to check her out on Twitter, you can also see her. Let's find her on Twitter. Here we go. It's at Mischelle ONeal. So it's same thing there. And finally, we talked about going to Michelle's website, Mastering Your Money. You can't talk. I can't talk either. masteringyourmonday.com/MYM book. You can check out the book over there, and I encourage you to do that. I think a lot of really great information that we're talking about today. Are there any last minute thoughts that you want to share with the audience that maybe we haven't touched upon that we have to? You know, it's really important that we do.
The main thing is I had talked about being your non-negotiables, understanding those, and being the gatekeeper of our lives, of our hearts. And the reason I say this is because when we do that, we let the good things in and we keep out the bad things. And that is so important to who sits in the front row of your life. Choose wisely who you share with, and who is in your life, and who you allow into your inner circle, because that is so important to your mental and physical health.
I think have you heard this, that we the 5 people that we spend our time with, that is basically who defines our world, our communications, our life. I think you agree with that. It's what you were saying right now. I mean, it's who we surround ourselves with, right?
Exactly. And that's what you were talking about, that balance and control in your life. It's important. Those are our balance and our control. At the end of the day, I have to say this. Who's going to be at your deathbed? Those are the people. I'm sorry, it may sound morbid, but I always ask my clients, I'm like, at the end of the day, who's going to be at your deathbed? Because those are the people that you need. Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you, Mischelle. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. I know that it's getting dark over there. You're not in where I am, and it's. I hate this time of year, to be honest. It gets dark way too early. I want to thank you though, because what you have to say is important. It is very important, and in fact, I'm going to talk about it right now in the Super Boomer moment. But I do appreciate you sharing your book, your time, and your thoughts with our audience. Thanks again. I'm going to drop you into the green room as we finish up the show. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
She's amazing. She's totally amazing. And we already know what my Super Boomer moment is, because when Mischelle said the 50 Shades of No, I mean, is that perfect? And it's all about the boundaries, right? It's about the boundaries that we put up so that we can do the good work that we need to do without being distracted by all the noise and the chatter and the, as I call it, the itty bitty, you know what, in my head. But it is the 50 Shades of No, and don't be afraid to say no. We had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, Andrea Waltz, who wrote the book Go for No. And in fact, the entire book is about when you go for no's, you just naturally get more yeses. So it is the 50 shades of no. Go for them. Get those boundaries up. Great, great, great points and advice. I want to thank you guys, because we know that you have a choice as to where you spend your time, and you decided to spend it with Mischelle and I today. And we are forever grateful for that. Go out and give somebody an awesome day, and we will see you next week on the next episode of the Super Boomer Lifestyle Show. Goodbye, everyone.